Hi, welcome to another episode of The Stitch Life. Today we're going to be going over how to teach yourself how to draw or sketch if you did not maybe go to school or you just starting to pick up design and fashion and you want to get your ideas from your head to paper. So we're going to start with just a couple different resource books that can be utilized. One of my favorites is the New Encyclopedia of Fashion Details. Another one of my favorites is Technical Drawing for Fashion Design, Garment Resource Book. And the last one I really like a lot is Nine Heads. Now, Nine Heads really focuses on like figure drawing and different positions and stuff like that. So a little bit more advanced of what I'm going to show you today. A good way of learning how to draw is honestly going back to thinking about how you learned your ABCs, how you learned your one, two, threes. We traced everything. Everything you did, you traced until you were able to execute it on your own in your own penmanship. So when you're teaching yourself how to sketch, think about it that same way. Think about tracing things. So a good thing to try is to just get books like this, Fashion Details, or magazines. You can use magazines as well. Use a very light piece of just like copy paper, like printer paper, or you can use tracing paper, which you can buy at like a Bullock art store as well, or you can buy it on Amazon. Link in our Amazon bio for designer essentials. So what you do is once you find something that you really want to learn how to draw, you take that paper and you lay it on top of that. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit here and I'm going to do this first one. So we just go on down, anchor on down, anchor on down. So right here, I don't know how clear it is, but you'll see that I'm literally just tracing here. So I'm tracing a collar around. I'm going around the shoulder, and then I'm going around the armhole and then into the body. Then I'm going to use a little bit of this to show her arm detail. This is like the perfect way to learn how to sketch without necessarily taking a fashion illustration class. All you have to do is invest in books and then just start tracing things. Now, when it comes to rendering and creating colors and stuff like that, I'll show you different ways that you can execute that as well. But the basics is just using books and tracing. And then, of course, you can develop your own croquis as well and just continue to use those. So this was very basic. And as you can see here, I've literally just copied this exact thing. I copied this right onto here. So it's really basic. It's not hard to do at all. Now, sometimes when it comes to like creating volume and stuff like that, that can be challenging. So just something to think about. When you're sketching, sketch the clothes first. And when you're done sketching the clothes, then draw in the face, the arms, the body. So that way you're not sketching the body first and then trying to draw on top of it. That is what the point of the croquis is for. So I'm going to show you an example of what I mean. So I'm going to use this croquis here, just a front view of a girl with her hands on her hips and her legs out. So I'm going to place this underneath my paper, croquis underneath my paper, and I'm going to put it flat. So I'm going to zoom directly back in here, and I'm going to I'm going to do a ball gown. Okay? So let me go down so you all can see here. And I'm going to do it this direction, and then I'll turn it so that you can see. So first thing I'm going to do is draw the shape of the ball gown. So I can see my waistline through my paper. So I'm going to start with the waist of where I want it to curve in at. And then I'm going to go all the way out to the end of my paper because I really want to show an exaggerated ball gown. So I'm going to come out here. And with your sketching, you'll really develop your own style over time. And I think I want pleats, so I'm going to show it with the lines going through like such. And a pleat is literally just a straight line. So that's all I'm doing is putting straight lines all the way through the piece here. I'm going to go ahead and end my waistband here. And I'm just going to connect some of those lines that I started. And then you want to think about how fabric naturally gathers. So you can add some additional gathering lines there. Doesn't have to be perfect either. You just want to make sure you get it down so that you can see. All right, so top half here, I'm gonna make it into a corset. So I'm gonna want it to be fitted, so I'm gonna go around her bust. And then I'm gonna create like somewhat of like a sweetheart neckline here. And I'm just using a mechanical pencil. I do recommend using pencils with a sharper edge just because it makes for a more clean line for your piece. And now that I have the base of my gown, you guys can see this is very basic sketching here. And what you'll do is when you start learning, you'll just develop quick sketches. So don't spend too long on it. You're not trying to perfect it right now. All you're trying to do is get used to showing different textures and different lines and stuff like that. So this is very, very basic level here. And then I'm going to show you the difference between creating a fashion illustration versus creating like a technical flat sketch. But I am going to finish this off so you guys can see. I'm going to fill in her neck, her arms, her elbow, and where her hand is on her hip. So I'm literally following the same pose that she's already in. And then, of course, I can change her hair to be whatever I want it to be, but I'm just going to use the same hair for now. And then, of course, you could draw in eyes, face, and all that other stuff too, but you don't have to, see? So that's just like literally a quick, very, very quick step. So that's pretty much key. So a couple different things to think about when you're sewing as well. I'm not sewing, sorry, drawing as well is how you define the outer lines. So a lot of times it's good to outline things in black or a different color, but even when, let's say you wanted to like give this design some color, you don't necessarily have to like color it all in like the way you would do like a coloring book. Like you kind of want to make like rendering lines, if that makes sense. And I'll show you an example of what I'm talking about from the Nine Heads book. So in the Nine Heads book, you'll see that a lot of times when it comes to shading, it's only in certain areas. And you'll see that a lot in fashion illustration. So I'm going to shade certain areas of this just to give it a little bit more depth. Like shading is definitely key. And it could just be in different areas just to show. So let me scroll on down here. Now I'm going to do some shading right here in the bust. So that's just me, straight line. I'm only going to do it on this side. So it doesn't look so one-dimensional. Okay. And then I'm going to add a little bit more in the waistline area. Just a little bit of shading here. Because you want to think about how the fabric is naturally going to fold. And then you could place shading areas strategically throughout your piece, however you want it to be. You can come from a line and use one of the lines to shade in. Some of the ones at the bottom, as you can see, I'm just curving here. I'm shading in. And then when I'm done, more than likely, I'm going to outline this in black. I actually don't like the way this little area looks, so I'm going to erase from right here. Okay. And then I'm going to just bring this line back up, and then I'm just going to keep my shading here at the bottom instead. Okay. So just by adding these shaded lines, you notice that I've created a lot more depth in the sketch, which makes it look a little bit cooler, you know? Gives it some dimension so you know what you're working with. Okay? All right. Now, fashion illustrations are really for marketing, PR, or just to see like what the look is going for. Now, a technical sketch will have all of the details of that particular garment. Usually a pattern maker would need a technical sketch in order to execute, and they would need a front and back view. Whereas fashion illustrations can be used in lookbooks, on websites, and is more for a aesthetic view of what your brand or your clothing or your pieces are. Now, the flat sketches are a little bit different because you need to have style lines in them, you need to have stitching details and all that other stuff. As you can see here, you can't tell from this sketch that this garment will probably have a cage in it, it'll probably have boning, it'll probably have top stitching. You wouldn't be able to tell that from a fashion illustration. You'd only be able to tell that from a technical sketch. So let's move on to technical sketches right after our commercial break.
So then I said to him, you ought to customize your car insurance with Liberty Mutual, so you only pay for what you need.
Doug, can we talk about something other than work? It's the weekend.
Yeah. Weekend. Weekends are a lot like insurance.
Yeah.
Yep. Hot dog or chicken? Hot dog.
Only pay for what you need.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
Hi, and we're back. So the first book that I recommend for learning how to do technical sketches is, like I said, the technical drawing book. Now in here, this is a way of getting your proportion down. Now there's two ways to do this. So you could do it like the way I learned in school. We would just draw half of the body. So you could just draw a straight line, like make it like a 90-degree angle, and you could just draw one half, and then you could just copy it to the other side. So that's one way of doing it to make sure it's fully symmetrical as well. Now, you'll find that in a technical sketch, as I was mentioning previously, it has stitching on there, pocket placement, it has the buttonholes, it literally has every piece of it. So to learn how to do a flat lay of front and the back, it's the same method. So I'm going to tilt it down so you can see. And I'm going to do the same exact thing that I did with the crow piece. But I'm going to do it as a flat sketch. So with the flat sketches, you really don't want you want to do like the opposite of what I have here. So you don't really want shading, or you don't really want these rough lines. You want like really good straight lines. So when doing a technical sketch, it's sometimes good to use a ruler as well, just to make sure that your lines are straight. But if you're tracing and you're just learning, just go as straight as possible. So it's gonna come here. I still, as a habit, still kind of do smaller strokes, but then I'm going to tighten it up because I'm going to go in here with a marker and I'm going to make my lines a lot darker. But literally, I'm just tracing around the piece I already had. When I'm telling you, I'm tracing every detail from every single line. I'm tracing every detail. So this, when doing flat sketches, it takes a little bit longer because you really want to make sure you're ironing out all the details and that you're capturing them all. So that someone else, like you would be able to pass this maybe to a pattern maker or a sewer, and then they'd be able to actually create this for you. Or you could use this as a guide to create your own. Now, I'm just going to go around here, and then you'll notice that there's a few gathers naturally in the cuff, where the cuff meets the sleeve, because that is where you will see a lot of ease. So now I'm just going to do the ribbed waistband, and I want to show that it's ribbed, and the way I show that it's ribbed is by making straight lines, of course. And then I'm going to come over some more, start on my placket, make sure it's super straight. As you can see, I'm only doing one half of the jacket right now because I want to show you how to do this method because it's a little bit easier. Because then you could just trace it to the other side or copy it over to the other side. Just like how we do in pattern making, we make one side and then it's usually like cut to or cut on fold. You can literally think about that same thing when you're creating a sketch. I'm going to put the gathers here as well so they naturally flow. And then I'm going to go ahead and put my placket into right down the center and across. So I took fashion illustration as a transfer student, and it definitely was not good. I think I got a C+. I actually didn't learn how to actually illustrate properly until almost junior or like senior year, because going into fashion illustration when I didn't have any background in illustration or sketching, it was very, very hard for me. And we did a lot of figure drawing and we had a lot of assignments that I just didn't understand. So the class wasn't really helpful for me because I didn't have the foundations. If you create a foundation first, it'll just make it a lot easier for you to get into illustrating. But hopping into illustration when you haven't even mastered just like straight lines and perpendicular lines and really understanding two-dimensional design is very hard. I ended up taking 2D after I did fashion illustration, and fundamentals of fashion design. I took that first as well. I mean, after I took fashion illustration, and that's how I really, really learned how to draw. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna zoom in so you guys can see. And of course, you don't draw the body in for a flat. You just literally have the piece. And I literally could fold this. Well, not this part of the collar, but I could fold this and make a photocopy of this. And then I could just open this up and then it would be on the other side. Or you could do it like this as well. You could fold it in half. And then you would literally use like a tracing wheel. Oops. Use like a tracing wheel to do the other side. Make sense? Oh, so it does. Now, if I was to say, I'm gonna go back to my fashion illustration really quickly here. If you're not familiar with details, details can be very, very hard. Like if you don't really know how to execute something in particular in your head, this new encyclopedia of fashion details really breaks down different details. So we got belts, bias cut, bows, collars, cuffs, drawstrings, you name it, like smocking, pleats. So if you were looking, let's say you wanted to understand how to draw a cow and how to render a cow. So you'll notice here that the color comes from the top and that the lines kind of fade over. You literally can have a book like this in front of you and just keep that in mind when you're marking. So color pencils are great when you're first learning. I definitely recommend color pencils over markers when you're first starting out. Now, I literally am going to go like this to make the render. Like the same as the book here. And that's why I have my book so close to my sketch. It's because I want to see if I can capture the exact same thing. So like I said, I definitely recommend color pencils more. And when you're rendering, you do want to create the same depth that you would with your pencil. So like these strokes that I'm doing, and I'm not taking them all the way down, you know, I'm just getting them right in this area. Perfect this just a little bit more, but this is pretty much the motion. You want to do whatever the motion is. So let's say you were making like a tweed or, you know, something like that. You'd want to go like this and make it like and then you'd want to dot this in. So if I was doing that in pencil and I wanted to show like a texture, I wanted to show fur. Let's say I did fur around the top of here. I'm just gonna go like that. Like the same like little fur hairs around here. That makes sense. But then if I wanted to show how, like I said, how tweed looks, I did it in marker, but I'll do it in pencil again just so you guys can see it better. Cross, 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 cross. Here, 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 here. Almost like a tic-tac-toe board. And then you're gonna wanna just put like little dots around it like that. And then when you go to color it in and you start to make shape, that literally creates like a tweed texture right there. Now, let's say you wanted to illustrate like a braid of some sort. You can, of course, actually, I'll do this on a different one. Let's say I wanted to put a braid on the side seam. I would draw another line in here. Just keep it with the curve of the jacket. And then I would literally put X's because that's kind of what a braid looks like. A braid looks like a crisscross. So you go here and here and here. And this just means that this area is braided. And here and here and down. And you see I created the braid just from like using lines. So slide this back up. The key to illustrating is playing with and just practicing. Like it's not something that you're going to learn how to do overnight. It's not something that is going to happen like very, very fast. It is a lot of dedication and watching your progress. For me, before I can draw and I was just trying things, I would do a project and I would put it on my wall. And then I would do another project and I would put it on my wall. And regardless of how ugly it was and how much I didn't like it, I was able to see my progression. And because I was able to see my progression is what motivated me to keep doing it and to keep learning it and to start developing my own croquis and to invest in more books where I would learn how to figure draw and things like that. So I do think that it takes a little time to get there. Don't expect it for it to be perfect, but there are a lot of different resources and a lot of different books that can help you. So as soon as we come back from our commercial break, I'm going to show you guys a little bit about how to draw accessories and shoes. See you in a second. Okay, and we're back. So I love accessories. It's like my favorite thing. I actually love accessories more than I love clothing, okay? So accessories are a little bit easier because a lot of it is just you drawing shapes. So two of my favorite reads, well, not even reads, but also like two of my favorite books so you can learn construction for shoes and accessories are these two. So this is the bag design book by Fashionary, and this is the shoe design book by Fashionary. So I'm gonna start with bags because that's my favorite. So the great thing about the bag design book is that it shows you multiple different type of bags and it helps you learn the terminology. And that's one of the biggest things with sketching is because a lot of times you have to put call outs on your sketches, especially if you're passing them over to a different pattern maker or a different seamstress of some sort. So make sure you're able to identify a mandarin collar versus like a shawl collar versus a notch collar. Now, in the handbag world, make sure you're able to understand a hobo bag different from like a crossbody bag, which is different from a fanny pack. There's so many different types of bags, whether it is a book bag, a duffel, a tote. So make sure that that is one of the things that you learn the most. Hat bags, baskets, Bermuda bags. So in this book, it shows all the different shapes. It even shows pockets, metal plates, zippers. So it really, if you literally put your paper on top of this, you can learn how to draw this yourself. So I'm gonna go into like the little template area in the book, which is in the back usually. And you'll see here that there's a whole lot of templates of different style bags. So what I'm gonna do from there is I'm going to do the exact same thing that I would have done with apparel. I'm gonna lay my piece of paper right down on top of it, and then I'm going to copy that shape, and I'm going to try to copy that shape from multiple different angles. So I'm going to tilt this down so you guys can see, and I'll get a little bit closer. It's a little bit bigger. And I'm going to come this direction. So I'm actually going to draw, well, I'm going to trace for you in the opposite direction so you can really just kind of see it come to life. So this is, clearly we all know what this is. This is like the classic Chanel bag with the quilting. Of course, it can't have the logo for trademark reasons and copyright reasons, but we all have seen this because it is a classic bag, okay? So lay this flat down, and I'm literally getting the edge of the bag first. And then once you have the shape of the bag that you want to create, you can then turn it into your own. You can decide whether you want to make the gusset more angled, if you want to change the shape of the gusset. So right now, the flat pocket is directly across. So I can draw that in for now, but then I can also decide to change that later. It also has rings right here where the chain comes through. And I'm just going across here around the rings where the chain comes through. And if I wanted it to be quilted, I could do the exact same thing. I can go over the dotted lines, but maybe I don't want it as quilted as that. Maybe I just want a couple stitch lines like this really, really huge. I don't have to trace every line. I can just go over a few to create the design that I would like that. And then I can go under and around. Now, I don't think I like the flap just straight. I think I would want my flap a little angled. So I'm actually going to erase over here because that's not how I want my flap. I want my flap to come to like a hexagon shape. So I'm going to erase this over here. And I'm going to create my flap on the angled like so. So I want my flap to look like this instead. And then I do want a style line stitch from here to here just because I think it's cool. Okay, so that has that piece. So now when I lift, you'll see that I have more of an angled top flap, and then my bottom is just straight across. But now I got a feeling that I want to try something different on the bottom. I want my shapes to all make sense together. So this is when it comes to making a cohesive collection and thinking about the 4 elements I designed, which are line, shape, color, and texture. If I want this all to have the same elements, I would need to do the same thing. So I'm actually going to bring the bottom of the bag to more of an angle too. So I'm going to straight down here, I'm going to go straight down here, and then I'm going to go across instead. And this is going to be my new back line. And then I'm going to go ahead and erase this line. Make sure you have good erasers too. And this one is not the best, but it gets the job done for the time being. So now I'm just going to perfect that line across here and across here. And then I'm gonna add a couple more style lines to the back. I think I'm gonna go and I'm gonna add a double stitch line here. And then I'm gonna angle up a little bit here. I'm gonna add another stitch line. It's funny that I'm drawing in reverse, but shapes are shapes no matter what direction they're in. So as long as you guys got a good view, we are good to go here. And then I want a, I want a braid. So I'm literally, instead of me having a rope chain, I think I want a braid. So I'm just gonna round this up a little bit. And I'm gonna do the same thing over here. And I want this to be one big old braid. So I would make like really, really big lines to illustrate that this right here is where I want my leather or whatever material your fabric is actually to be braided. So now I have a top handle on it. I don't really like the way that looks, so I probably would illustrate that again and change that up a little bit because it's not cute, but that's the concept. Now I'm gonna move into shoes. All right, that's good. Thank you. All right, so same as the handbag book, gives you the same exact thing. And then the pieces are in the back. Now, with shoes, I would get really creative with like toe shapes and heels. And you definitely want to think about comfort because this is something that people wear all the time. So, well, have a lot of wear and tear on, to say the least. Not wear all the time, but we do wear our shoes way more than we wear our clothing. So let's go with a, let's see, what do we want to put a spin on? Let's put a spin on your classic pump. Kind of looks like a So Kate from Christian Louboutin right here. So let's go with that one. So same concept, taper down. I'm going to get the base of the shoe. I know for myself that I don't like really pointing tip shoes. I prefer more rounded toes, so I'm going to round that automatically for myself. Because I know, so I'm going to go above the line of where it was, and then I'm going to create my own line here. And then I'm going to do the classic pump shape. Go up here. And just around here. Kind of fade that to nothing. And then this is my heel here. And then this is the platform as well. Now, I think I want to get really fun, you know, with the bottom of the shoe. So I'm going to create a heel that's similar to my angled piece from my bag. So I'm going to go across, and I think a woman would appreciate this because it's not as skinny. So I'm going to go this way, but then I'm going to come back out again. So I'm going back in. I'm going out again. I'm really literally using the same shape as I would. And then I'm going to put one more angle here. And then I'm going to angle this up there. Now that's not a cool pump design. And then I think I want to create some details in there as well, just to make it interesting for the wearer, whether it is color block or if it's just the style lines. Now check out that pump. You know, really cool. And not your classic pump, but very, very different. So I hope that today's how-to series has helped you think about other ways of learning how to illustrate by using the books and using croquis. You can Google croquis online and you can print them out. They are free. You can buy, of course, fashion illustration detail books and stuff like that, and you can use the croquis inside of the books as well. So there's a lot of different ways to get to your goals without you making excuses. Invest in books, follow different tutorials online, and a lot of fashion books have like little different lessons in there for you. So I hope that this was helpful, and I can't wait to see you guys next week. And on another episode of The Stitched Life, wait till you see what we have coming. And make sure you guys check out our garment tour that's coming up. We're going to create a virtual one for you, so stay tuned. Have a nice day, everyone, and peace out.
One more time.